All right, my friends. Those of you who are watching this in the morning, I am now on a vacation, a one-day vacation with my parents, with my parents, with my family, my children, my grandchildren, my wife. We went up to Haifa, but I did not want to leave you without Chassidut in the morning. So here it is. I'll recording. This is the nighttime recording. Ready? Yet? We're learning from the book, which is called Likuti Torah. This is this week's Torah portion, Akib. And in this Torah portion, it has several commandments, and one of them is blessing after eating. After you eat bread is a commandment from the Torah to bless and to thank God. And the rabbis instituted a very exact pattern, a very exact, wording of the prayers that you have to thank God. And one of them is that you have to mention the brit that God made with Abraham, right? Circumcision that God made with Abraham. And another one is you have to mention the Torah, that God gave us the Torah, and also that he gave us the land. You have to mention the land of Israel. So let's go. Now, for those of you who don't know, in the blessing after eating has four big blessings in it. And the blessing after eating, if you say it at a regular speed, it takes like about 3 or 4 minutes to say. So it's pretty long, and it has four large blessings. The first blessing, it says, was made by Moses when the manna came down from heaven. And the second one was made by Joshua when they went into the land of Israel. And the third one was made by King David when he established the city of Jerusalem. And the fourth one was made by the rabbis, and there were several reasons why. The fourth one is a much longer blessing. Okay, nevertheless, in the blessing, this is called Birkat HaMazon, the blessing after eating. So it says, and that you have to mention the circumcision, the covenant that God made with the Jewish people, and your covenant that you stamped into our flesh, right? All male Jews, they make a circumcision. That's the covenant between them with God, and al Torah, and also on the Torah. And this is said in the second blessing of the four blessings. It's called the blessing on the land of Israel. She'omer Zal, that the rabbis say, Kol Shalom Amar Brit V'Torah, anyone that does not mention the circumcision, the covenant that God made with Abraham of circumcision, and the Torah, that he has not fulfilled his obligation, and thanking God for eating. At first glance, we have to understand another. Okay, so what is the connection between the Brit that we have and the Torah that God gave us? I mean, true, they're both parts of Judaism, but why specifically these two things connected to the second blessing about God giving us food in the land of Israel? What's the connection? So it says, okay, we don't understand that. Let's understand the a more pressing question. What is the pressing question? Kushya Yoter Gadol, a bigger question. The Birchas HaOretz, and this second blessing of the four blessings we say after eating, nowadays, excuse me, the Oraisa, that it is from the Torah. Why do we say the second blessing, thank you, God, for giving us the land of Israel? It says, Ubarachta et ha'oretz. It's from the Torah that we have to mention this. Yesh Lomo, we can say, Ali Bazumanchi Israel, when all the Jewish people are living in the land of Israel. And now all the Jewish people are certainly not living in the land of Israel. The majority of the Jews are living outside of Israel. There was a big question up to now if the majority of Jews were living in America or not. But in any case, there's more Jews now, so they say, living in Israel than in America. But as far as I know, there's more Jews living outside of Israel than are living inside of Israel by far, right? That's not counting all the Jews in Russia that don't even know that they're Jews. So if so, Why do we thank God for the land of Israel? We don't even, we haven't possessed it. We're all scattered around. So the end is like this: the Eretz Nitna Abram, the land was given to Abraham in the merit of the circumcision. Like it says, "V'natati l'cha l'zarecha acharecha et Eretz megurecha as Eretz Canaan lachuzat olam." You get the land of Israel, an eternal inheritance. Who gave it to them? God gave it to Abraham. One person. Va'ata et briti tishmor, and my covenant you can keep. Ata uzarecha lacharecha l'dorotechem, you and your generations after you for all time. So that by the way, the Rebbe said that somebody should stand up in the United Nations and say that the fact is that even if no Jew ever in the history of the world ever lived in the land of Israel, never, we have no legal claim in the United Nations for the land of Israel. Our claim to the land of Israel is very simple. There's God. God creates the world. God creates all the non-Jews also. And God promised the land of Israel to Abraham and all of the Jews that came after him. He gave it to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. So it's a promise that God gave to Abraham. When did he give it to him? When he made this circumcision. That's when God began it, this covenant. So the circumcision that Abraham made, that's when God promised him the land of Israel. One person. We have to understand, mine, Yerusha, the Oretz, then Mila. What's the connection between the land and circumcision? Now, I mean, maybe you can say, hey, 1 second. The Arabs are also from Abraham, right? So the answer is ideally, yes, you're right. It's true. But the fact is that the Arabs that are today are not relatives of anybody. Nobody knows who they are. There was a person called Sancherib, and he came around the end of the first temple, and he conquered the whole world, and he scattered everyone around so that no one was in the same place. So everybody lost their identity except for the Jews. Except for the Jews. There was also the 10 tribes that got scattered around. There was nothing to hold the other nations together. In Judaism, it's forbidden for a Jew to marry a non-Jew. Forbidden. So, okay, let's say there were Jews that left Judaism, and those Jews, they don't call themselves Jews anymore. They intermarried, and their children are not proud to be Jews. They have no connection to be Jews. Right? If the mother was non-Jewish, so the children are non-Jewish, and also surprisingly, they don't even have any Jewish identity. They don't care about it. Could care less about it. So therefore, all the people that say that they are Jews today, most of them, if not all of them, they are direct descendants from Abraham. But the people who say that they are Arabs today, they have no connection to Ishmael. And even if they did, the fact is that God gave the land of Israel to Abraham and to his son Yitzchak. So that cuts Ishmael out of it already. And also to Jacob. So that cuts Esau out. Okay. Oh, it also Israel, the land of Israel. The Jewish people. Surprisingly, the Jewish people have held on to this bizarre commandment of circumcision. There's always a bunch of Jews that stand up and say, "Hey, wow, why didn't we ever think about this before? This circumcision is outdated. It's cruel. It's impossible. It gives the children traumas, everything. But that's the reason why the non-Jews are so tremendously normal and kind and easygoing, and all the Jews are like neurotic and psychotic and all this stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. But nevertheless, the fact is that the Jewish people, above all understanding, beyond all comprehension, against all of the complaints, which always there's some group of Jews that pop up and say that you shouldn't do it. Nevertheless, Jews have been circumcising their children for about 4,000 years since the time of Abraham, even if they're in another land. And even if the land of Israel is given to strangers. Where is the promise to God that God made to Abraham that your children after you will always have the land of Israel? So the land is really God has kept his promise. What? The fact that he gave to Abraham an inheritance of the land of Canaan, Elyonah, the spiritual land of Israel. And this really the Jews do have it forever. And that is the force that insanely gives Jews the urge to circumcise their children. This upper land of Israel. Therefore, Mila Noeg Bezman Hazeh. That's why Jews circumcise their children even nowadays. And that's why we say the blessing on the land of Israel is from the Torah, even nowadays. Because even though we might not have the land of Israel like we should, of course, the Alter Rebbe was speaking in his days. There was even fewer Jews living in Israel, but nevertheless, they would say the blessing after eating that we have the land of Israel. Well, okay. So, in other words, the Jewish people do have the land of Israel, but right now it's the spiritual land of Israel, and eventually it will be the Mashiach will bring all the Jews back to the physical land of Israel. Only the Mashiach will do it. It's not going to happen any other way. Not only will the Mashiach bring all the Jews back to Israel, the Mashiach will even bring the Israelis back to Israel, which that's a big, okay. Let's explain this whole idea. The old Canaan, the land of Canaan, is the language of Hachna'ah. Hachna'ah. Humility. Shiflos. How do you say? Surrender to God. Bittul. Umelashan Tager, that's from one thing. Canaan is from the language of Kniya, to be subjugated to God. And another is a Kanaani is a salesman, businessman. It gets written in Isaiah. Hine Canaan. One second. Hine Canaan. It says Asher Sochrea Sarim Kanaaneha Nichbede Oretz. And also in Hosea, Canaan Biyado Mosne Mirma. A Canaan is a businessman. So the land of Canaan, Israel, that's a land of businessmen. What type of business are we talking about? Spiritual business. Tagar, a businessman, a kone, he buys something from someone who sells it. And this is by means of two things. Either he draws the thing into his possession, and the other one is he just gives money. Right? I want to buy someone's car. So either I pull the car to me, or I give the guy money, the person who sells it, and it's mine. That's what a salesman does. Same thing is also, and so I pull it into my domain, or I give money. Also the same thing it says, Kone Akol. God also does the same thing. By God, it says that God is Kone Akol. God possesses everything. He purchases everything. And this is the same way, Ki Atzmuto, because God's essence is much higher, much above. God's reality is infinitely more great than any of the worlds. We've spoken about this many times. God is higher from all these aspects of God. Mamalik how he fills the worlds, how he surrounds the worlds. That makes him a businessman. Why? Because even the Tzimtzum Rishon, even this highest spiritual levels, which maybe we'll talk about this in another time, what's called the Tzimtzum Rishon, the highest possible beginning of all spiritual levels, is by him milim dehediotim. It's like nothing by God. It's just like with one little glimpse, God sees all of the worlds, all of the spiritual things that are going to happen and will happen and did happen, like one. Everything is like nothing by God. Like it says in the Zohar, in one thought, God created all the worlds for all time. And in order for God, like from God, comes the whole order of creation. When it came up in God's will, so he desired to create a world. After that depends, okay, he did it for free. But afterwards, Chafetz Chesed, afterwards, the whole world is put into our hands. And Be'esrusa Detat, only by means of an arousal from below, comes, God reacts, etc. Okay, so this is going to be what's called a businessman. What's a businessman? That he pulls from one domain into the other, or he gives money. The same thing is the land of Israel is the place where we serve God. We give God our energy and we draw godliness into the world. That's called making a purchase, salesman. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. God willing, tomorrow we'll have a regular, normal class. Have a good day with Moshiach Now. You know what? We'll do a couple minutes of the Tvar Malchut also.